So let's talk. You mentioned the brakes, and this was actually one of the things that really surprised me about your project, was that you're actually using full regenerative braking, much like what we see in I was going to say electric vehicles, but in electric cars, to recharge the batteries when you stop. That seems like a really kind of high-end feature. Like, I associate that with cars, rather expensive cars.
Yeah.
Why add something that's such a high-end feature when most people really are just going to be expecting, a board, a battery, and a motor?
Yeah. I mean, we really want to bring all the latest technology down to like a price point that, people can try out. There's a lot of other electric vehicle companies out there that are, basically trying to replace gas engines with an electric engine. And, our philosophy is that, why not rethink what the vehicle can be? We have this new powertrain, this like board, this, powered longboard really wasn't possible without, electric motors. So, now we can rethink about what, new types of vehicles we could create with this powertrain. And we're really concentrating on, the, smallest, lowest, kind of the minimalist, product that we can have, so something that's just extremely lightweight, but we don't want to compromise on any of the technology and performance. So we want to have all of that regenerative braking and all that power and all that, lightweight aspects and stuff to it. So, and it just makes sense to do the regenerative braking too, because when you're going down a hill and you are using the motor for braking, it'll either become heat, or you can take that energy and dump it back in the battery. So it just makes sense for us to do that.
Yeah, I guess it gives you more range with the vehicle without sort of adding in a much heavier battery. Or
Yep, exactly. I mean, you're charging up your batteries as you're hitting the brakes, so it's just extending your range out. It's just, it makes sense on so many different levels. No.
And does that charge just when the brakes are engaged, or is it charging like if you're going down a hill without braking?
It's when the brakes are engaged, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, which is going to be most of the time when you're going downhill anyway, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and it's not just when you're braking, but, you're wanting to control your speed going down a hill too. So, as you're like lightly hitting the brakes, it's charging the batteries too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, I saw in the comments, like, obviously you have some high-end technology on this between wireless hand controllers, regenerative braking, that you're using respected brand name parts, from the sort of bearings to the board itself. And yet I see that this has kind of led to a number of people in the comments on your project to kind of question, or I guess you'd say complain about the price. Now, at the same time, I've read in other articles on the boosted board that while the price tag is about $1,200, that it actually costs you more, or rather a lot more than that to make, or at least it did, and that each 12-pound vehicle was actually being done individually by hand. What's the idea there?
Yeah. So I think that the comment about it costing more, I believe, what Sanjay was talking about was our current prototypes that we're hand building. The amount of time and hours that we're putting into it. And then also just creating at a low volume. We're not getting sort of the economies of scales and stuff that you would at a larger production. But really, like the $1,200 price point we feel is actually a bargain for an electric vehicle. I mean, if you think of any other like motorized, scooter or anything, it's going to be, starting at least close to there. And this is, the boosted board, the vehicle that we're delivering has the premium parts. It has the latest motor technology. It has, all the stuff that you would want in like the latest electric vehicle. And it comes in a really cool package. So at $1,200, we actually think that that's a really great price. And we wanted to price it at a point that, it is at least like, reachable and something that people, could afford that, for an electric vehicle. Like it really is kind of one of the like kind of an early, it's at a price point that that like a lot of people could afford still, and it would make kind of a big difference. And other people could try, I guess. So,
and I guess it's certainly going to cost people a lot more than $5 a year to drive their car to and from work each year.
Yep, exactly. I mean, it kind of is. It depends on how people are perceiving it. And that's one thing that we really have tried to express in our Kickstarter page is that this really can be used as a vehicle, and that's actually what most people, our beta users, have been using it for, is actually commuting around. And a lot of them like had originally bought it because they thought it was like something that was really cool and fun and stuff, and then they've been like, wow, this really has actually changed the way that I get around the city, and I'm just kind of driving less. So that's something that someone might not pick up initially. Like they might be like, oh, this is kind of a cool skateboard. But in the end, if they're driving less and using gas less, the return on that investment could actually be like, higher.
Absolutely. So have you had much feedback from people who weren't skaters before? Like, I guess what's kind of interesting with this is it seems to me that a lot of your market are probably people who don't know that they need your product yet. Like, I know when I looked at it, I'm kind of like, well, I'm not a skateboarder, but hey, I'll take a look at it. And I must admit, by the end of the campaign, reading through your campaign, I'm like, yeah, I could really use one of these. But I wasn't looking at your campaign because I was like, yeah, I really need an electric skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm just wondering if you've had any challenges with trying to have a product whose market doesn't necessarily know it's needed, and if you've really gotten much feedback from people who have tried it and aren't actually skateboarders yet.
Yeah, so we have, and one of our first customers, he had never stepped on a board, and within 2 hours he had pretty much mastered riding our boosted board prototype, and like now he rides it like all over the place. So we definitely have gotten feedback from non-skaters, and yeah, I guess the the point about the appealing to the non-skaters. So I guess like let me think here. The from what we've seen, from 16 to 34-year-old, like there's a lot of people that are traveling less in their cars, and there's let me really think about how I was going to.
That's okay. We can take
a pretty good question there, and I was thinking along a certain
I
lines.
always like to slip a surprise one in there somewhere, just to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, yeah. Um, well, I guess